Well, hey guys, here we are. It is time for Wisdom 21, and that is learn to go with the flow. I'm kind of cheekily happy about doing this today because I think it's my husband's least favourite saying. And so anytime I'm like, oh, come on, babe, let's just go with the flow, he's like, rrr. But sometimes there's nothing else you can say but go with the flow. Anyway, my experiences, was I younger? I don't know if I was ever one of these people that had to control every situation. But when I got on the road and started travelling, I certainly had to learn how to go with the flow. So in 1992, I went through Egypt, Jordan and Israel and a little bit of Thailand. I think it was, no, that was later. Egypt, Jordan and Israel. And when you're in a place like that, it's certainly very, very challenging. The first week I was with a friend, but for the rest of it I was by myself. So I wrote a book at the time called Blonde Hair in a Double D Cup, which I never published. But it was all about those experiences, and you had to go with the flow, as well as learning how to trust your gut, which is probably another wisdom. But then in 1995, I went through Nepal, India, China. That was when I went through to Thailand as well. But China in particular back then was an incredibly difficult country to travel, my God. Just from a technological point of view, getting money, being stranded, so many different things. But I remember I turned up in Beijing, I was exhausted, I'd been harassed, I had all sorts of issues on the train, I had to get out of this place on the black market, and then I got fined by the Chinese. Oh, it was really, really, really challenging. And I turned up at this hotel, the only one that had been recommended to me, the only one that looked like it was worth staying at. And I walk up to the reception and the lady goes, no room, fuck off. And I'm like, whoa, oh, okay. I'm like, are you sure there's no room? No room, fuck off. And I was like, and I had nowhere else to go, and I was tired and it was late. So I just went and sat in the lobby, and I just said to her, if a room or a bed comes up, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere else. And I watched this string of tourists come through, and she did the same thing to every single one of them. And every single time they got angry with her and told her she had no right to speak to them that way, and got very indignant. Anyway, a couple of hours later she came up to me, she goes, you, room. And she took me off to a room, and it was obviously her little way of testing whether we were worthy. And that was a fascinating hotel experience. So we're closing it down, and there was no running water. The toilets were an extremely unpleasant experience, but I met some cool people and we had an interesting time in Beijing. So professionally, Microsoft, I was really trying to work really hard, really driving, trying to get my business working. It wasn't working. I was getting frustrated, I was getting depressed, and I reached out, and Microsoft came back and offered me a job, and it wasn't the job that I wanted. And my first reaction was to say no, but I didn't, because I knew it was the right decision to go and work with Microsoft. And then, it was definitely the best professional experience I had, and it's an incredible company. So, I went with the flow, and I think, what else? Oh yeah, of course, moving to Phuket. We made a very, very rapid decision to move to Phuket so that Lex could get access to the Arrowsmith program at UWCT. We didn't know if it was going to work. We didn't know if this was the answer. We'd been searching for answers for nearly 10 years, and we were never going to give up, but we packed the whole family up and we went. And we had a bit of a bumpy start. It was an adjustment for everyone, but for Lex as well. But we went with the flow, and we just seeing this little dude growing into a young man before our eyes, and he's overcoming so many of the challenges that he was faced, because we knew that what everybody else was telling us wasn't right. But we had to keep focusing. But the important thing was we made the decision, and we just had to go with it, and we had to go with the flow. So going with the flow has definitely been a huge part of my life. I often find that when you go with the flow, it takes you into places that you wouldn't have gone if you tried to control the situation. Better situations, more fun, more crazy stuff. The joy of life. Putting yourself out there into the unknown. Steve likes to control the outcome more. I prefer to just sort of turn up and see what happens. Of course, we miss out on things. We didn't get to the Paris catacombs because I didn't book it, right? Because I'm going with the flow. So you do miss out on some things, but that's all right because you replace them with other things. So if you can do it, if it's in you, one of my suggestions is, if you're not very good at going with the flow, just allow yourself to do it sometimes. You don't have to control everything, you don't have to plan everything, you don't need to have an itinerary to tick off. You know, I think back to our wedding, so many funny, crazy, ridiculous things happened, and we didn't, and that wasn't the transvestite cabaret or the elephant, which we of course wouldn't do today, but it was a different time then. You know, there's you know, our hens night, our bucks night, we were booking stuff on the fly, because yeah, it doesn't always need to be planned. Allow life to give you the space to be random. So there you go, wisdom 21, learn to go with the flow. It's helped me a lot, I hope it helps you too. Cheers.